At this step, we will create a schedule where we will count separately wooden and brick cubes. To create a specification, go to the View tab. The Create group includes various commands with the help of which you can create views, such as 3D views, sections, plan views, drafting views, or schedules. Expanding the schedules rollout, you can create 6 different types of schedules in Revit. Schedule quantities lists the objects of the selected category. That is, in such a schedule, each object from the model will be displayed on each separate line by default. The graphical column schedule is a unique table that shows the structural columns divided by the floors in a building. Material takeoff lists the materials of the objects of the selected category. For example, if we have an instance of a family in which 2 different materials are used simultaneously, then in schedule quantities we'll display this instance in one line, and in case of material takeoff, in 2 lines, one line for each material. Sheet list enumerates the sheets available in the Revit file. Node block is a specification for 2D annotation objects. Finally, the view list enumerates the views of the Revit file. Let's choose Schedule Quantities. In the open window, you must specify the category of objects for which we create a specification. Our cubes belong to the category Generic Models. Let's select this category and leave the rest of the options unchanged. If we click OK, the next window will open Schedule Properties. Here we can set the specification in detail. All settings are divided into 5 tabs. In the first tab, Fields, we select the parameters of the object of the category Generic Models, which will serve as vertical columns in the specification. Let me remind you that the lines in the specification will serve as objects of the previously selected category. To add a parameter to the specification, select it and double-click on it, or use the arrow button. Let's add the following parameters: type, volume, level, and count. The count is a special parameter, the only one in the list that is not an object parameter, rather a schedule parameter that counts the number of objects in each line of the specification. We can select both family instance parameters and type parameters, but we don't see in the list those cube parameters that we created ourselves: length, width, height, cube material. Why they are not available, we will analyze at a different step. Click OK and see how the table is created. So the schedule is created. It is opened and available in a special rollout of the project browser. It is in bold as the active view. Let's take a look at some of the features of the schedule. I will go to the View tab and select the Tile Views command. After that, all the tabs of the open views will divide into separate windows. To return to the previous option of displaying views, click on the Tab Views. But we still need the Tile Views mode. You can double-click the mouse wheel to center the view. The schedule is an interactive table. It changes if some alterations take place in the model. Basically, a schedule is a view that shows us a slice of a model in a tabular view. Let's make sure of it. I'll create a few more cubes. To do this, select an existing instance and use the Create Similar command. This command allows us to create exactly the same object as the selected one. We see that a line has been added to the schedule. Let's try again. Press Escape twice to exit Family Instance mode. Objects are added to the schedule according to the order they were created, so new cubes are added to the last lines. The schedule also reacts to changes in objects in the model. For example, I will select the last cube I created, and we will see how the volume of this object changes in the schedule when its dimensions change. You can also select objects through the schedule. For example, let's select several lines. Objects corresponding to these lines will be highlighted. Moreover, you can change the parameters values of the objects through the schedule, but not any. For example, the volume cannot be changed because the program will not understand which dimension should be changed while changing the volume, length, width, or height. Also, you cannot change the value of the level parameter. However, this doesn't have the same logical explanation as in the case of volume. It is just the developers of Revit who blocked this possibility. Count isn't an object parameter. It's just the number of elements in a line, so the value of this parameter is also unchangeable. But most of the other parameters are available for change directly from the specification. For example, we can change the type. The last cube is wooden. I will make it brick. I will return to tab views and switch to the Schedule window tab. When a schedule is active, commands associated with it appear on the ribbon. Basically, these commands duplicate the schedule settings available for us from the Properties panel. In the Other group of parameters, we see several parameters which are changed through the Settings window, opened by the buttons Edit. Click on any of these buttons. We will get in the Schedule Properties window. The Fields tab is already familiar to us. In general, these edit buttons correspond with tabs. Let's do the following. Remove the object tied to level 2 from the schedule. Also, I want to merge all wooden cubes into one line and all brick ones into the second line, and calculate respectively the total values of the volumes for the wooden and brick cubes. Let's start from removing object at level 2. This is done through the Filter tab. Let's choose a filtering criterion. This criterion will be the level parameter. In general, almost all parameters added to the schedule on the Field tab are available for filtering, except Count parameter. The Count parameter is not available for the reason that it is not a parameter of the model objects. Let's select the following filtering criterion. Level is equals to level 1. Then, only objects with such a value of the level parameter will remain in the table. Let's check it by clicking the OK button. I will go back to the Schedule Settings window. Let's go to the Sorting Grouping tab. This is where we define the order of the lines. For our task, the type parameter should be selected as the sorting criterion. Click OK and see how the table changes. The cube now go in order depending on the type name. There can be several sorting criteria. Each one will work inside the previous one. That is, if I select the volume as the second criterion, then at first I would also get lines with brick cubes, but among themselves they would be sorted by increasing of the volume, and only then lines with wooden cubes would go, which would also be sorted by increasing volume. Let's check. Let's remove the check mark Itemize every instance. This checkmark is responsible for the fact that each instance of the family is present on a separate line in schedule. If you uncheck this mark, Revit will check the sorting criteria, and if it finds two or more instances for which both the type and volume will be the same, then it will combine them into one line. Let's check. I formed several lines. The first line has 3 brick cubes with a volume of 2.7 cubic meters. The second line has 1 brick cube with a volume of 5.4 cubic meters, and etc. To merge all brick and all wooden cubes into 2 lines, you need to remove the volume parameter from the sorting criteria. Then, type will remain the only criterion by which objects will be merged into lines. The lines were formed, but the volume wasn't calculated. The fact is that Revit seeks to show not the total values of the parameters, but the values for the selected elements by default. Now, several elements with different sizes are combined into one line, and the software simply doesn't know what to display. In fact, we want to see the total volume in these cells. Let's go back to the Schedule Properties window. We need the Formatting tab, through which we can define the format for displaying data in a cell. For example, rounding parameters or units of measurement. But you can also set specific conditions. Select the volume parameter and change the last attribute on the right side of the window. Instead of no calculation, set calculate totals. Now, the sum will be calculated in the cells for the volume column.